Welcome back to Everyday's Movie Ever. My name is Jess and I'm watching Everyday's Movie Ever. Today I'm going to be talking about Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, 2021 theatrical release about Shang-Chi having to stop his dad before he opens a gate to an evil dark creature that eats souls. It is directed by Destin Cretton, cinematography by Bill Pope, editing by Elisabet Ronaldsottir, Nat Sanders and Harry Yoon, music by Joel P. West, and it's written by Destin Cretton, Dave Callaham, and Andrew Lanham. The film stars Simu Liu as Shang-Chi, Tony Leung Chiu-wai as Wenwu, Awkwafina as Katie, and Meng'er Zhang as Xialing. Stan Lee had discussed the potential for a TV series or feature film for Shang-Chi in the 80s. In 2001, it started development with Steve Norrington signed on to direct The Hands of Shang-Chi. 2003, it was in development at DreamWorks. In 2004, the rights reverted back to Marvel. In 2005, Marvel listed it as part of its 10-film slate. The Ten Rings were introduced in Iron Man 1 without the Mandarin. In 2013, the Mandarin appears in Iron Man 3, but then it turns out to be an actor who isn't the real Mandarin. In 2018, Marvel says it is now fast-tracking Shang-Chi. Dave Callaham was brought on to write and was told to write from his perspective and experience, and he had said that was the first time anyone had ever said that to him. Australia won the bid for the film to be made there. In 2019, Louis Tan and Simu Liu were among the last, to be tested and seen. Simu had gone through quite a few rounds. He did test with Awkwafina because Awkwafina was already cast, and Awkwafina said it was obvious that he was Shang-Chi from the jump. Everyone was diligent to make sure everything was authentic and never dipped into stereotypical territory. Many decisions were made about Mandarin being spoken in the film and when it would be spoken in the film. Cretton wanted a lot of strong women in the film. Shang-Chi is surrounded by strong women. His best friend Katie, his mom, Yang Li, and his sister. He wanted to make sure there was a lot of strong women around. As you would expect, production and set design was essential in making sure it was authentic and appropriate representation, and the 10 rings were turned into bangles around the wrist instead of 10 rings on your fingers like in the comics, which I had no idea, so that's very exciting. The film began production in February of 2020. It paused on March 12th, suspended March 13th. They were able to resume in August of 2020, and the release date was pushed back to July of 2021. The fight choreography, obviously we cannot not talk about it. Brad Allen was the stunt coordinator. Destin Cretton, the director, had pitched the bus fight. It was like part of his original pitch. He was like, we need this, this is what it looks like, blah blah blah, and it got approved and got put in the film. And he said Brad Allen, the stunt coordinator, is fully he gives credit to for the Buster Keaton physical comedy of that scene. And then they both wanted to make sure they paid homage to Jackie Chan because they really wanted it to be a mix of martial arts styles. So they have the elegant, smooth style from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and then they have the kinetic fight sequence energy of a Jackie Chan fight. And so they pay homage to Jackie Chan in the bus sequence multiple ways, but the biggest way is when Shang-Chi does the jacket move, because that is a very Jackie Chan moment. Flip side, Tony Leung, Wenwu, was told because he had the 10 rings, he didn't really have to do a lot of fighting because he just has the 10 rings. That ended up not being true, so he only had 2 weeks to prepare, and he said it wasn't hard because of his experience in action films, and I just need to say, what a flex. He's as cool as he thinks he is. That's amazing. And then the whole, they joke about, a Kamehameha move that Shang-Chi does with the rings to the dark creature. I forget what they call the creature, but the dark creature that eats the souls. And it actually was intended to be a nod and homage to the Kamehameha wave in Dragon Ball Z, which I love. The film had $150 to $200 million budget. It made $432.2 million box office, which means we're getting back to it, but that's surprising to me, given how all these other films, had been doing. It's got a 92% Rotten Tomatoes consensus. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings isn't entirely free of Marvel's familiar formula, but this exciting origin story expands the MCU in more ways than one. It was nominated for Best Visual Effects and did not win, and as recently as January of 2026, they did say the sequel was still coming. I have opinions about that. But supposedly Shang-Chi is supposed to be in Avengers Doomsday, so that would be the first time we've seen him since this movie. It's been 5 years since this movie came out now, so I'm intrigued. Gotta hand it to Destin. This is really well put together. It's a very fun it's good. It's a fun superhero movie. It's unique. It's got great representation. It's good. Cinematography was stunning, especially the coverage of all the fights. Loved that. The movement was great. Visual effects were great. No visual complaints at all. I did see this movie back when it came out. I don't know if I saw it in theaters. I think I watched it on Disney Plus with my family. And all I remember from it was the bus fight. So I just need to shout out the bus fight. I think the bus fight is probably one of the more iconic moments in this movie. The movie's very well edited for being over 2 hours. It's pretty well paced. I never felt bored, but the bus fight is so good. I know we've mentioned Jackie Chan a few times. I think there's more Jackie Chan nods and martial art film nods in this fight than like any other fight in this film. The acrobatics of him along the side of the bus, him with the jacket, him like swinging around all the poles and everything. I know we have the fight on the scaffolding, but even that doesn't feel as like acrobatic and unique as this bus fight. Genuinely so good, and it's so well edited. And then obviously the film itself it's well edited. I don't really have any complaints. I didn't think any part was boring. Music was great. I've got no complaints. I think there were a couple moments, especially in like the big climaxes, that I was like, ooh, the music right there is so good. But nothing I specifically was like, yo, this moment is so excellent. But I do know I was affected by it, and it was really well done. It does have a voiceover opening, okay? It does. It's from the point of view, I'm pretty sure it's his mother telling him, maybe, the story in Mandarin. That's to say, the opening is in Mandarin, so you have to read the subtitles. Unless you speak Mandarin, of course, in which case, hell yeah. So it's another film that has a voiceover opening, which I'm like, gonna lose my mind. Just like Raya and the Last Dragon, this one feels a little bit more appropriate because it's giving you a story where like Cruella and Flora and Ulysses, the opening voiceover feels very unnecessary to the film because you're watching it all happen at the same time. Where this is like telling you the lore of Wenwu and how he has the 10 rings and how he came to be this like evil, power-hungry whatever, and then he met, you know, Shang-Chi's mom and gave it all up and started the family, and then she died and he went back to being, you know, Wenwu or whatever. So I think I have a little bit more grace for this one, like I did Raya, because Raya was it was giving you this history lesson. I know that's a kind of a lazy way to give very essential expository information, but at the same time, like, it's kind of a lot of information, so it is like kind of the way to give it. But I will say, it's still annoying that this is now movie number 4 for sure. What was before this? Let me look. Hang on, what was before these? Hang on, is it more than 4 in a row? Oh, Own the Room's a documentary. Okay, so it's definitely not 4 in a row. Spin, I don't think had a voiceover opening. Okay, good. Good. Black Widow. Does Black Widow have a voiceover opening? I don't think so. I think it starts with them as kids, right? Last Warrior, I don't know. Soul might have a voiceover opening. I'd really have to go back and like actually listen and check, but it's just becoming more and more noticeable because I'm standing here, like, on movie number 4 in a row that has a voiceover opening of some kind. It's getting a little tired. What's after this? Under Wraps. Okay, so the decom Under Wraps. We'll see if it has a voiceover opening. We'll see. Okay, bus fight's great. I already talked about it. 2 parent deaths, his mom, and then obviously later in the movie, his dad. The Talo setup is so cool. The story here is very, very cool. I kind of like that Shang-Chi already has such incredible, like, fighting skills by the time we are witnessing, you know, like, we're with, like, Awkwafina's character, Katie, is the audience, right? We're with her. We didn't know this about him. We pretty much kind of knew only the stuff she knew about him, even though obviously she knows more about him than us, the audience, does, but the deeper stuff, we're learning with her, so she's a good representation of the audience, which I think is a nice way to have her character be, so we can experience it, like, kind of through her eyes as well, where it's like, yo, my best friend who I thought I knew for, like, 10 years or whatever is, like, a badass, like, what the hell, and then, like, you learn even more, like, he's killed someone, he was trained to be an assassin, his dad's some, like, evil, crazy psycho with these magical ring bangle, like, you know. I do think they kind of don't ever, like, talk about how some of it could be somewhat believable because of everything this in-universe world has gone through. Like, Awkwafina being surprised that, you know, this guy has these magical rings, I feel like is kind of weird because, like, aliens have come to the planet. Thanos has snapped his fingers and people went away for 5 years. Like, I think that's interesting. They kind of ignore where in the story it's happening. They don't talk about the outside things happening until, like, the mid-credit scene where, like, Wong has, you know, Danvers and Banner, you know, so, like, I just think that's interesting, but I do think the story is fun. I know, like, critics are saying the Marvel formula, but, like, how many ways can you do an origin story for a superhero? So I do think it's pretty unique because he's just really good at martial arts. Like, he was trained from a young boy and that's all he did all day, every day, was learn how to be an assassin and a fighter, so he's really good at that. And then, on top of it, he's given some magical rings. And, like, his family element and all that kind of stuff, I think it's really interesting. And I think it's really interesting that his dad is the villain, and, like, they don't make his sister a villain, and, like, all this kind of stuff. I just think it's an interesting story. I think it's really entertaining. I think it's really well done. The fight choreography is obviously insane. We've already touched on it, but it is genuinely so well done. Supposedly, the fight choreographer that was on this film is on the new Spider-Man film, which is very exciting. Had all the martial arts bells and whistles. And then a lot of people talk about the fight scene between Wenwu and their mom being a metaphor for a sex scene, because then, like, the next shot is he's got a baby. And so I think that's a very interesting take, and it's fun to, like, look into the subtext and the metaphor and all that kind of stuff. Favorite part, probably the Kamehameha ripping the rings out of the frickin' dark thing. That was cool. That was so cool. Least favorite part, maybe that the dragon almost died. That was pretty sad and scary, and I don't like that. I don't like that its soul was getting sucked out. Sad. Recommend? Yes. Watch again? Yes, I would. This whole lack of sequel thing for this movie, kind of insane, right? So, Marvel, I think this is really, we're going to start getting in now to where Marvel really starts to fumble the bag, right? And I think everyone can talk ad nauseum about why they think Marvel, like, started to lose it. I personally think it's a number of things. I think making the TV shows on Disney Plus essential to the main plot of the story was an insane choice. Asking people to watch multiple shows that are way longer than 2 hours at a time is an insane ask to then, like, be like, okay, make sure you watch these 5 shows before you come see this movie or you won't have any idea what's going on. I think that's an insane ask. I think that's great, and they are essential to the plot. Loki introduces the TVA. and I've only seen the first season. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier's all about how he becomes the frickin' Captain America? Like, what do you mean? And then WandaVision, like, WandaVision maybe isn't essential to the plot, because they do kind of erase growth that Wanda's gone through in WandaVision in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But it's still, like, kind of important because of the stuff happening with Vision. I don't know. And I haven't seen Moon Knight, I haven't seen She-Hulk, I haven't seen the Marvels, I haven't seen, Miss Marvel? And then the Marvels is a movie, right? I haven't seen that either. Did I say Moon Knight? I don't know. Hawkeye, I haven't seen. Like, there's so many shows that, like, I'm probably, like, characters are being introduced, storylines are being introduced. I haven't seen any of this because it's a huge commitment. It's different than going to a movie like once a month, right? They don't release 12 movies a year, but you know, they used to release a couple a year, right? 2 to 3 a year. That's a way different commitment. That's like 6 hours. This is like 24 hours that they're asking people to commit. I don't know. It's just, I think that was a huge detriment. And then I think it's very obvious they didn't have like a solid plan like they did before. Because they're obviously were setting up Kang in the TVA and in Loki. And then obviously Jonathan Majors or whatever his name is sucks. So they were like, okay, we got to dip out of that one and instead of recasting him. And so now they're going a different way with Doctor Doom, and that feels very random. Like, how are we having an Avengers movie? You've barely set up anybody. We've got Shang-Chi. He hasn't had another movie. I'm pretty sure Iron Man 1, 2, Captain America 1, maybe 2, and Thor 1 had all at least happened before Avengers 1, right? Like, I'm not losing my mind. Right? I just feel like, you know, they're gonna have all these, and then now Captain America and Thor coming out. Like, I can't even. I just think they fumbled the bag, right? They haven't had a solid plan. They're being like, we're gonna introduce this character, but then we're gonna forget them. Like, Shang-Chi came out in 2021. I don't think there was this big of a gap between, you know, I know Iron Man 3 was 2013, but Iron Man 1's like 2008, right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's a 5-year difference, which means there was a movie in the middle. It's been 5 years since Shang-Chi 1, and we haven't had a sequel. We would have had a sequel and potentially a third one coming out this year. Like, that's what I'm talking about, is like, people are now like forgetting these heroes, that you set them up because they're so far apart. I don't know. Anyway, I digress. That's everything I have. My final rating is going to be 8 rings out of 10. Our total movie count is. Our parent death toll is. Crack count is still the same. If you want to keep up with what movie I'm watching when, follow me on all socials to find out what movie I'm watching when, and check out my website. It's cool. I put out videos every Monday and Friday and sometimes Wednesday, but mostly Wednesdays. So now, join Patreon. Got a tier starting at just $1. You get every video a week early. Tiers above that, daily trivia, monthly postcards, bonus content, etc. Go check it out. It's really cool. Patreon's a huge support. I would really appreciate it. Buy merch. Merch is great. Merch is grand. Until next time, comment, like, subscribe. I'm not in charge of your life. You are a studio, and don't be that soul-eating creature about it, I suppose. I was going to say Wenwu, but he sacrifices himself in the end, so...